everyone, my name is Kat Savage and I'm a professional artist, clinical hypnotherapist and well-being expert working with those in the creative arts sector. In my line of work, I get to meet some amazing, colourful people, from actors to artists, people who live their lives by their own rules, fueled by passion and determination to bring their unique talents into the world. I wanted to discover what it took for people to leave the usual 9 to 5 and hop on a dream, to capture their bravest moments and share these meaningful conversations with you, so that together we can explore the ideas, emotions and moments that could potentially change our lives too. The Brave Moment podcast begins now, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, probably the bravest moment not only for my guests, but for the whole world. So let's keep talking, have some fun, and enjoy the show. This week on the show, we speak to singer-songwriter Joanna Cooke. Joanna has performed alongside some of the UK's biggest stars, including Rag and Bone Man and Paloma Faith, and named That Baby Girl Singing the Blues by the legendary Martha Reeves. With her soulful voice and poignant lyrics, Joanna is quickly becoming a rising star, and in this interview we talk about overcoming nerves, expanding personal boundaries, and learning how to deal with the emotions that arise when pushing for success. Down to earth, funny, humble, and full of heart, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the incredibly talented Joanna Cooke. Joanna Cooke, welcome to the Brave Moment.
Thank you so much. How are you doing, Kat?
I'm doing all right. It's raining outside. There's pitter patter on the window, and I'm still in my pajamas, but that's cool. How about you?
Are you still in your pajamas? I'm quite jealous. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Not in my pajamas, but usually a bit like you. I spend most of my days these days just rattling around in a different dressing gown, maybe 2, maybe 3, layered up kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get on with things as well, but it's just we're all inside, not moving about at the moment, aren't we?
I know. It totally sucks, but hey, there you go. It's a good excuse to do a podcast with you. So
Exactly.
Let's do this. Yay. Okay, so I'm going to take you right back into your childhood. There we are. And I'd like to know a little bit about what it was like growing up. And did you always have an artistic flair, or did someone else see that in you first?
I think I sort of was drawn to it like a moth to the flame. And to begin with, I definitely had like a pull towards it. I was one of 6 children, not all in the same house, but I lived with 3 other siblings, and my sisters and brothers were always really encouraging. And my brother used to write like dance music in the house and sort of asked me to sing stuff on top of it. And I was kind of quite pulled towards that, and found even on dance music, kind of like saying how I felt as a 14-year-old can still suit on that, and actually really went quite well with that kind of style. But when I went to secondary school, I was drawn to the heavy metal band randomly. I was like this little girl in year 7, and just went and go to the music department and would go and sit in on this heavy metal. I didn't like it at all, but I just think that's hearing musical instruments and people sort of staring at each other in a room and kind of making something was real. I don't quite understand it like now looking back, but I definitely think that was like the start. I was always in the music department, and then I came out of that heavy metal like band practice at lunchtime and heard that there was a jazz band rehearsing with like teachers and stuff. I thought this was a bit more like what I perhaps should be doing. And then I did actually end up singing one song and getting to go on 3 different school trips just for singing one song, and the rest of the jazz band sort of played the rest of the stuff. So I felt really privileged.
I can just imagine you like rocking your head out to a heavy metal band. That image is going to be seared into my brain when I next see you in your dulcet, soulful tones on stage.
Bless you. I don't know that I was rocking out as in like I really liked it. I just loved hearing guitar and drums and music and weirdly. And it wasn't like I was with any friends. I was just on my own. I was year 7 and they were like 6th form. So it was quite funny.
You are so rock and roll. I love it.
But anyway,
So obviously at school you were sort of inspired with your music, but what was it like at home? Did you have an artistic family, or were you sort of like the black sheep of the art world at home?
No, I think I was the main one who actually did art in the broad sense of the term. My dad, though, is and was a very prolific artist and sort of surrealist artist. And he always encouraged us to kind of listen to, he had a record player, and although, and I'll come on to it later, it was a little bit frightening at the time, to be honest, because he would play us like Howling Wolf and Screaming Jay Hawkins and all these really like deep, big black American artists, which to me the voices sound quite frightening and harrowing, because obviously of what they were talking about a lot of the time. It was really old school, like Robert Johnson. But that definitely went into me kind of without knowing it. So I found it quite difficult at times to actually be in that situation. However, it was really, really educational. So I'm grateful now. So my dad kind of encouraged us to listen to music and appreciate art, very much sort of, let's look at this painting and sort of see how we feel about it and appreciate it, which I just, I'm really grateful that he made us do that, really, and listen to music, and even classical music, he would just make us sit and listen to it.
That's a pretty incredible parent, actually, in terms of, trying to show you some of the beauty of the world, or to find the beauty in things that maybe people don't quite understand.
Yeah.
I can remember the first time that I heard Elgar's Nimrod, and it's my dad's favourite tune, to the point where he will just cry. He wants it at his funeral and all the rest of it. And at first I didn't understand it until I was like, what is this? Because I was into Guns N' Roses and stuff at the time. And and Dad was like, no, just listen to it. Let it make your heart soar. And it did, but not until about 25 years later. I was so not interested in that when I was young. And I wish that someone had made me sort of sit down and look at it a bit more in depth. So you're really, really lucky in that respect. I love that.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like you said, you didn't particularly appreciate it then. And I certainly didn't, but it's just like everything comes full circle. And that is quite a nice thing to remember, I think, going forward in your own life and what influences you have on other people.
So how would your family describe you then?
Well, I actually went to the trouble of asking my siblings. So this is literally from the horse's mouth. Amy, my middle sister, said happy-go-lucky, thoughtful, bit of a warrior, generous, selfless. Freddie, my youngest brother, said, foremost, you have a kind spirit and will go out of your way to lift other spirits up, even if it means compromising your own peace. And very articulate, he said, which I don't know what he needs to reassess that one. George, my middle brother, he said, beautifully talented, hilariously silly, deeply caring, and a great big sis. And my brother Owen, my eldest brother, said, loving and caring, talented, fun and focused.
Aww. How would you describe yourself?
Highly emotional. Heart on my sleeve. Oh, God. I'm just very dictated by my emotions, so I have to kind of like stop and go, everything's okay, and kind of just be present, because I can get very carried away with my emotions. But I think that's the beauty of how you can become things like songwriters, because, it's not a unique thing, but it's something that you've got to express yourself. And yeah, I put myself down a lot, but I guess I'm quite a nice person.
The tortured artist.
Yeah, basically.
I can absolutely relate to that. A couple of days ago, I was just sat on the sofa and just crying at everything that was happening around me. So I was reading a book and I was crying at that, and then I switched on the telly and I started crying at an advert, and it was just one of those days where the whole world just made me cry for different happy and sad reasons. And my husband was like, Kat, what's wrong with you? And I was just, I don't know, I'm just feeling everything today. It was so much fun.
That's amazing, though. It's really good for you to be like that and let out tears.
I totally agree. Okay, so I read in your bio that you found your first keyboard in a skip. Tell us about that, and how did that open up some opportunity for you?
Well, I didn't really, funnily enough, I started playing guitar first and I didn't really get on very well with it. And there was a keyboard in the school, just was in a skip, and they, all the schools were getting new keyboards and they had a few sticky keys. And I just said to the, teacher, can I have this actually? Because I haven't got anything like this at home. And I just felt, again, this kind of pull. I don't really remember thinking, I wasn't encouraged necessarily, although my dad did say, you need to get piano lessons, which I really wish I had because I'm self-taught, but instead I took singing lessons. It just was a way for me to express myself, really. So it was like, oh, thank God, I really felt like playing chords very simply because, again, I was self-taught and probably doing it all in the wrong way, but it just made me feel so much. And then I started putting lyrics to that. And sort of I can kind of express myself. And it was a huge, asset to find that keyboard and just to start that journey, really.
So for new musicians that are thinking when they listen to this, oh my God, I really want to be just like Joanna Cooke. Would you suggest then, if they can, if their parents and stuff can afford it or whatever, to actually start music lessons with an instrument first, or like yourself, start singing lessons first?
It's much of a muchness, really. I mean, I was very lucky to get singing lessons because that's essentially what people sort of know me for, my voice at the moment. Not exactly my piano skills, but I think it's equally important. Like piano, the actual theory of music it's really important for you to kind of learn that. I don't have any knowledge of that, but it's so helpful, I think, going on and actually having more strings to your bow if you take music on professionally. It probably is good for you to know how to play something and know what you're playing. Whereas I'm doing everything by feel, which can create beautiful things in its own right, but it frustrates people like my partner who, likes to work in a technical way. I think if you're privileged enough to get any kind of lessons, then anything will be a great start. I wouldn't say getting piano lessons is better than singing because it's, you need to nurture them both, really. But I think theoretically and musically, piano probably is more fundamental to begin with because then you can accompany yourself, whereas you can't accompany yourself if you just know how to sing.
Okay, so here you are, you're at school, you've been listening to heavy metal, you've discovered jazz, you found a keyboard in a skip. So what were you like as a teenager, and what music did you listen to back then?
Not much. Again, it sounds a bit of a sob story, but I didn't have the access to music, really. So I kind of listened to whatever was on if I ever got to listen to it. My siblings were kind of at the age where they're going out, so they'd be clubbing and stuff. And as I said, my brother made dance music, so I would really just listen to that and whatever my dad was playing me. And it really wasn't until I left home that I got to kind of listen to music, if I'm honest.
Wow. Can you remember the first record that you ever bought?
Oh, God. I think I bought Ronan Keating, that song. It's amazing how you can go right to my heart. And I was like, my first boyfriend. Oh, that was the emotional time, listening to that on repeat. Thinking of Mark. Yeah. What crazy times.
So from someone that hasn't really bought music up until that point, where did you draw your inspiration? Like, can you remember the first voice that you listened to that you went, oh my goodness, that stopped me in my tracks. That voice is insane. And you just wanted to hear more of it. Can you remember that?
Well, I guess it'd go back to the whole Robert Johnson, Screamy, Jay Hawkins and Howling Wolf, those records that my dad would play us. It certainly hit me. I remember when I was about, a teenager, I guess, and I was a cat sitter on the street. So people used to ask me to cat sit, mate. Yeah. And there was this American couple who went away quite a lot, and they just let me look after their cats and basically roam around their house, which was incredible for me. Had some space, and they had a CD player. And I remember, do you remember that song that goes, "Take me to the clouds above"?
Oh my God, yes.
Voice in my heart, these the one I dream of. Anyway, I had that single. I think I won it at disco. At a disco. I won like a CD as a prize. and it was that tune. And I remember listening to that thinking, and that's kind of like the dance music powerhouse vocal that I'm still doing now. I'm doing kind of music like that now. So I think that was one of the first times I was like, this is incredible.
That era of dance music where the vocal was A, live, B, untouched in terms of like vocal shifts and vox pops and all that kind of stuff. But just having that, it was almost like they just mixed like ballad with beat for the first time ever. And that elevated sound, that huge sound. I mean, I hear it now and then today, but it's just not got the same kind of feel. And I don't know whether or not that's because the vocals today, it's quite fashionable to have kind of a thinner, lighter, angelic vocal with that beat. But at that time, it was very much about the growl, wasn't it? And it was very much about that really big, soulful, and just sink my teeth into it just thinking about it.
You just explained it so well.
Oh, thanks.
I don't think they're making it quite the same, but I'm hoping I'm going to bring some of that back.
You already do.
I'm taking that. No,
yeah.
That's what I kind of like want to bring to the party with the kind of dance music that I do. I really appreciate that kind of, like you said, ballad mixed with beat. And I think that's kind of where I'm headed a little bit anyway. So yeah.
I'm so excited. That gives me chills to think about it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what you bring out next. Joanna Cooke.
Thank you.
So talking about writing songs, can you remember the first song that you wrote and what was it about?
Oh, God. Is any of this interview going to be happy, Joe? Right. Okay. So, yeah, I can remember my first song was written about my stepdad. And basically, yeah, he left and I never saw him again. It's weird, isn't it? So I almost feel like for some people that's like someone dying. So yeah, it's interesting. But I'm cool now, but that's what it was. So I will be putting that track out one day, but not yet. Well,
thank you, first of all, for sharing that information, because I know that that's quite a sensitive topic. And as you said before, you are led by your heart more than your head. So I can imagine that to write that must have been quite cathartic. And also, like you said, with someone leaving in such a manner, a bereavement in some ways. So I'll be really interested to see how you produce that, how you bring that to the album in your contemporary style.
Yeah, thank you. As I said, that song won't be on this album, but it will come out. It's almost like these things in my life that I just leave in a box, and then I think with this record I've brought out loads of stuff, the one I'm working on now, but all I'm saying is that thing that you just asked me about is quite funny because I haven't really dealt with, sort of brought that out yet, but it is there. It's almost like I have lots of things that I store this over there and just going to put that one over there, and then when it's the right time I'll bring it into the fore and share it. It's quite nice.
Yeah, that is really, really nice. And it's nice that you're willing to share those first songs that you've written, because I think my first song that I wrote was actually about my dad's car.
Really?
It was rubbish.
Oh, that's sweet. That's nice and positive. That shows exactly the person that you are in comparison to me. Let's make light of life. No.
Needless to say, it will never, ever come to light for sure. But there you go.
Is that one that you're compartmentalising?
It's compartmentalised under lock and key and will never see the light of day.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
So I was going to ask you next what your creative process is.
Well, it's a real mixture for me. My house is covered with lyrics. So Post-it notes, scrap paper, important letters that I shouldn't be writing lyrics on. Anything goes, tea-stained flyers from gigs. And I say to Nathan, my partner, regularly, don't chuck that away. No, we can't chuck that. No, because he's trying to tidy up. And there's all this crap everywhere that just looks like, a water bill from 1980, but it's got 3 lines on it that might go into a song one day. So I do write chords a lot and write words a lot, whether it's on my phone or just record something, but I'm not very organised as a person in general. So I don't have this, this little file with all my lyrics in. Look, I'm even saying it like it's a problem. I probably feel happier with, I feel happier with mess, but I don't really. But yeah, I write lyrics everywhere. So sometimes it comes from lyrics, but also going back to the emotion. If I feel an emotion or something, I might not have words or anything for it, but I'll just be sat at the piano. I'll create some, chords that kind of express that. emotion, basically. And then I might write some lyrics to go with it. But it really doesn't have, there's no formula for me. It's kind of whatever goes. But also I'm really not prolific at all. That's something I want to work on.
That's really, really interesting. I think I'm quite similar to you, and I was saying this to our previous guest, Kat Marsh, who's a mutual friend of ours, and she's such a legend. I love that woman, much like yourself. And we were talking about sort of our creative processes, and she always comes up with melody before she comes up with lyrics. And for me, I'm the other way around. I always come up with lyrics first, or I write poetry or whatever. And a bit like yourself, I imagine I'm a bit of a lyric hoarder. I'll just stuff it wherever I can.
Yeah.
And then I'll come across it like like you write it in like the fold of a book or something. You'll open that book and be like, oh yeah, I wrote that back in 2009. I'll drag that back out.
What the hell does that mean? Or that was really like attention-seeking thing to say or something. Do you ever shut up? That's what springs to mind whenever.
I do love listening back to like voice recordings on my phone though from like a few years ago when I thought at the time that was the lyric, and then I listen back, I'm like, what is this cheese?
I know. It all helps though, doesn't it? I did the weekend find a voice recording of like a sort of version of something that I've put into this new record on one of the songs, and I said to Nathan, I said, look, and I sent it to him at like 2 a.m. because I was like drinking wine, listening to my tracks, sort of like working on stuff, and I was like, look at this, it was even rubbish back then. It was like just this recording of me going something really awful, and I'm like, it is actually in this song, but what was I thinking back then? And I just recorded it. It just sounds like a cat being like squeezed from the throat. Sorry, that's not very nice.
Oh my goodness. So that brings me nicely onto what your daily practices might be, and how has that changed in the pandemic, for better or worse?
I think for everyone it's been a bit of a roller coaster, so I've probably been a bit rubbish with my daily practices, to be honest, and it's been quite up and down one day and and the next, but it has sort of highlighted for me that a routine's really, really good. And just as a person, I benefit from a routine, even though I'm quite out of the box and perhaps don't naturally think I should be having to do all this. So yeah, basically just in a nutshell, I understand that it's important to meditate for me. Eating well, drinking water, exercise, and practicing gratitude is a big one. Just going through half an hour of singing and playing, because I'm just not doing it anymore. So it's been like a year since I've been properly, and I'm just not match fit. So I'm doing these vocal recordings for other people in international collaborations, and I'm just not, well, I am match fit, but I'm having to really put work in to get up to scratch to be able to record that vocal, because I'm just not used to it anymore. I'm used to gigging 3 times a week, and or even when during lockdown we were doing live streams, and that would take me like a week to prepare. And so that preparation keeps you match fit. So that's another thing, is just to keep doing what I actually am known for and do at home. Because when hopefully everything opens up again, I need to be absolutely bang on it so I can still survive in this world. Dramatic.
So I'm going to take you away from the bleakness of lockdown and try and put you back into that place where you first got paid for a gig. Can you remember where you were and what was the experience that you had?
I remember being booked for New Year's Eve. I can't remember how many years ago it was, but with Nathan, my guitarist is my partner, and I was so nervous to even drive. I'm being brutally honest here. Like to drive in a new place, and it was up in Wiltshire. So a friend of mine from school was always been really supportive and thought I'm really good, and kind of like, yes, come up and do New Year's Eve for us. She had just bought a pub up in Wiltshire, and I got my best friend from uni to drive me and Nathan up, because I was just so nervous about the pressure of having this first gig, it being New Year's Eve, it being like a friend of mine's pub. I've never really done this before, but I knew I wanted to do it. So Gina drove us up. And it went down really well. Looking back at the photos, I'm like, what the hell was I wearing? Like, oh my goodness me. Why is it that we kind of get better with age? You'd think when you're young and like attractive and that's you in your prime that you're going to be like making the most of yourself. But gosh, I wasn't. So yeah, that was New Year's Eve up in a place called the Cross Keys in Wiltshire, and we did like 3 hours of covers because back then I didn't do any originals. I ended up the wrong side of the bar, but I was allowed to be. So yeah, I was pulling pints by the end of the night, but it was great. It's great.
So
great experience.
I was gonna say, I mean, first of all, that's a very, very cool first experience of being paid for a gig, because at least you had your boyfriend, at least you had your friends there to support you, and it wasn't just you on your own trying to survive. So I'm really, really glad that you were surrounded by love, at least. But you did mention that you got very, very nervous. So do you still get nervous now, or have you found a way to sort of like combat that emotionally, or with a mantra, or what are your top tips and advice for people that get nervous?
I still get really nervous all the time, but I think, like, especially right here, right now on this day, I would absolutely, do anything to get out there and perform at any one of these gigs that I used to get nervous about, probably, and do it without a batting an eyelid, because I'm just missing it so much. But when I'm in, back in the saddle and you've got all these new gigs coming up, I get nervous for everything. And I say this with interviews, that I kind of genuinely think of it a bit like everything I do is like, I'm going to be at Wembley Stadium. I don't know if that's like just ridiculousness in my head, but everything feels like it's a really important opportunity. I can't remember who was it who gave me the advice, but like squeezing your index finger and your thumb together like that's pucker, mate. That kind of thing, and just squeezing it together and remembering a really good gig that went well, or like a really wonderful time where you just felt on top of the world. And for me, that was when we were like rehearsing for something, and me and Nathan just sounded absolutely spot on. And so now when I'm going out to a gig that I'm nervous about, I'll try and squeeze my fingers together and remember that time that I can do it, and that you've done it before, so it's probably going to be fine again.
It's really lovely to hear such an established artist talking so openly and honestly about being nervous and really caring about what you're putting out there, because you would never know it. And I've seen you gig a couple of times, and the energy that you bring to the stage is so confident, free and easy, and very inviting to the audience. And it's so lovely to know that actually behind the scenes, you're like, oh my goodness, I want it to go well, but that you have this amazing system to sort of bring that energy to the stage. And it's so apparent. So that's a really good piece of advice. I really love it. And I hope that some people that are feeling like, they can't do it, are listening to this now and thinking, well, actually, if she can do it and she's this person, then, hopefully I can too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just want to touch a little bit on, some of the other challenges that come with regular gigging. So I know that a lot of my friends who are musicians that don't have a musician as a partner, sometimes it can put pressure on their relationship, or just like social occasions. Like one of my good friends, shout out Jerry, invited me to come to this festival, which sounded awesome. En Vogue, Gabrielle, all of the old school powerhouse women playing. And I had to let her down because we've got work, fingers crossed, on that particular date. And I know that socially, I always feel like that guilt that I'm letting down my friends, or that they feel like I'm not really a part of, socializing in that way. So what challenges have you had to face or overcome sort of socially, performance wise, or emotionally in order to do what you do?
I think finding peace, I've had to overcome like that notion that actually I'm putting myself in the limelight here. I'm Joanna Cooke. Want to sing about my songs. And then it's almost like I don't really want the attention. And I remember when I first started, I wanted to be the voice with no name, the voice with no face kind of thing, because I just didn't want to be seen. And I think, so it's a love-hate thing for me, because I really want to be seen, but also I don't quite enjoy that attention. I found that really difficult in the past. I like you, I have definitely put music first and missed out on so much stuff because I'm gigging, and that's literally my drive, and that's what I'm doing. And I don't know if I've answered the question here, but I think what I'm trying to see is I need to find peace with how other people see me, That's fine for them to have an opinion, but not to like worry about it. Not, because I'm putting myself in front of people. I've got to expect that. And it's taken me a long time to realise that. But also it's okay for people to not agree, but you don't have to take what they think and then think that it's real, because it's going to mean whatever it is for you, really. And that's taken me a while.
I'm actually going to take that on board myself, because it's something that I'm always really aware of. Like, I always feel like I'm saying sorry to other people for not being there for whatever reason, because of the ambition and the drive to do my work. And yeah, I'm going to take that on. I'm going to try not to feel so guilty about my work now and just do it.
That's what you're choosing to do. So, yeah.
Yes. So what have been some of your favourite gigs and why?
This sounds really selfish, but when people are stopping and listening and turning their heads. What gigs? So yeah, one of my favourite gigs was Leapalooza, I think. And that was just because people actually started crying. How bad is that? I enjoyed it because people cried at my music. But I was singing a song that means a hell of a lot to me, and the stage guys were crying. And then the audience was shouting out, because it was like a big crowd for me, but not big enough for me not to hear people shouting out. And it's a very quiet song, so people were able to. And it was just a lovely moment where we all kind of like went, oh yeah, we're all feeling a bit upset. And that's just like, gosh, that's like the dream, really.
What was the song, out of interest?
Do It Slow.
Oh, I love that song. Oh, I'm crying just thinking of it.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of those kind of gut wrenches on this next record.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So what was your proudest moment in terms of your musical career?
Meeting Martha Reeves and being asked to support her before she came on stage. That was quite locally, and everything I've been doing is relatively regional, but I'm hoping to really expand on that in the future. But I just felt very privileged, because she's like one of those singers that I would have just loved her music, and she was 76 and still performing like a pro with all of her backing. Excuse me, the Vandellas, and the drummer who's like been her MD for years and years, and he was just sat there just drabbing the whole thing. And it was wonderful to watch somebody from that era of like the Smokey Robinsons, and to actually meet somebody like that. I mean, as usual when I'm meeting people, I'm like blah, 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 and ruin that. But she actually said to me, "Are you the little baby singing? Were you this little baby girl singing the blues?" I was like, "Yeah, I was. Thanks for noticing." That was like one of my proudest moments, because I feel like not that Rag and Bone Man and Paloma Faith aren't incredible, but for me, that's more like my roots, Martha Reeves. And equally, it was an amazing experience to have like a modern day artist or a couple of them to support. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching Martha Reeves and just listening to that kind of music again. I'm just imagining that gig with you and Martha Reeves. I really, really wish that I was there, because that would have been insane to witness. Oh my goodness, how lucky are you and the audience for that one? Yeah, I'm very lucky. Okay, I'm going to ask you a random question now. If there was a fire, what 3 albums would you save? Oh, see, I feel really like cliche here, but Michael Jackson's greatest hits. Nice. The Rolling Stones' greatest hits. And probably Solomon Burke's greatest hits, who did like the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. Oh, nice. That kind of, like when your baby leaves you all alone. That kind of stuff. But yeah, I didn't. Oh, I just wanted you to keep on singing then. Thank you. I'm going to have to cover that one time. Yeah, please. But yeah, Michael Jackson, I really like his music. Oh my goodness. His music is so, I mean, it's legendary, isn't it? Whether you have feelings about the artist or not is obsolete, because the music speaks for itself. Absolutely. And actually, funnily enough, I have one of his poetry books, and his poetry is insanely beautiful. Oh. Okay. So, I mean, you've touched on it a little bit. You are starting to work on a new album. Tell me a little bit about what's inspired it, and when can we expect it to be released, Joanna Cooke? Gosh. A while yet. Let's just say it's going to be out in a while. I'm firstly trying to see when's going to be a good time to release music anyway. I think at the beginning half of the year, it's going to be probably a good time for anyone because we're not going to be out and about. However, if you want to obviously play it live, then I'm trying to sort of work that in. So I'm looking at like an autumn actually, which sounds like ages away. But if it is going to be an album, then it's going to be 10 tracks and that's going to take quite a while. We can't obviously go in and really record with anyone at the moment. So it's all going to be a bit delayed, but I think it's perfect timing for me to really think it out and figure out where I'm going to target it and where I'm going to put it and just generally try and make it the biggest success it can be. So it's would be my first album and it's genuinely about a journey and it's might be in a kind of timeline form, as in track 1 is kind of the beginning for me and maybe track 10 is the end of not this is the end, but I just mean the kind of beginning of where I am now, you know, like so we're up to date kind of thing of the emotions of Joanna Cooke. And it would be like a timeline, I think, where because my music's very much about this is very much about what shapes us. You know, what happens to us in the past can shape us, but it doesn't need to defy us and how we can grow kind of thing. So it's all very much feelings based and that's not changed. So at least that's the consistency of my music up until now. But it's going to be a lot more stripped back, hopefully. There will be some band tracks on there, but it's going to be a lot more live sounding, as in, I think previously I've chosen producers that perhaps produce it a bit too much. And I just want to sort of strip it back. And a lot of people say to me, I actually go to YouTube to listen to you because it's live and that's how I like to listen to you. So I just want the ideas to be raw, and I think that's going to be the best way of dressing these very sort of deep emotional songs anyway. Less is more.
I agree. Okay, so if you could meet one of your musical inspirations, or many actually, you can meet as many as you like, who would they be and what would you ask them?
I think I'd just probably try and meet David Bowie if he'd see me.
Oh.
Because he's just amazing. The more, like, he's been coming up for me, I say inverted comments, quite a lot recently, just randomly. I always think of this as a sign, and I don't know what sign it is, but he's just been everywhere. Like, everything I do, it's like David Bowie's there. Like, in real life, I'm not just imagining it, don't worry. Hi, David. Come on over. No, but I just find him incredibly interesting as a person, and I still would love to know even more about him, but I know he did his own thing and wasn't defined by like one genre for one, which is what I love about him. So I'd probably ask him like how he copes with being different and what tips would he give me to help me be comfortable in my own skin. Because I know he kind of just did whatever he wanted. He was very solitary and he sort of used that as inspiration. And I think these days we're sort of expected to conform. I think it's really good for people to just be themselves. And so I kind of look up to him for that. And I still struggle with being myself, even though I'm trying to champion it. So maybe he would be able to give me some advice.
Can I be there when he does that, please?
Yes. It's going to be in heaven.
Thanks.
I'm afraid, but yeah.
We'll just take a road trip, man.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool, you're on.
So talking about challenging yourself, what do you consider to be your bravest moment? And that can be a physical bravery or something that you've overcome mentally or a deeply spiritual thing. What is that moment for you?
Just generally taking music as a career. I knew I always wanted to do it. And then I had this lovely gentleman, Andrew Ellis, I've been working with for many years. We're not working so much together anymore, but he gave me a chance. And I remember like a year before that, he was like, do you want to work with me? And I was like, no, I'm too scared. And no, I'm not ready for this. And I'm just so glad that I did the year later. And he asked again kind of thing. Because it is quite a brave thing, I think, to give up your job and to kind of try and start from the bottom up with music when you haven't got a big budget, or I'm not in London, especially, I know it doesn't all happen in London, but I think it is difficult being in the Southwest, getting those connections. So yeah, it was a brave thing for me to just believe what people were saying. Not that you should give up your job, it's just that you're good, because I never really did believe it. And then to go meet this man and actually let him help me get to where I am now, which is only the beginning, but it's still a start.
I love that, because the Brave Moment podcast is called The Brave Moment because we're talking to artists that have left that 9-to-5 circuit in order to pursue their dream. And to hear that it actually works is a really lovely thing to hear. And thank goodness you did leave your job, Joanna Cooke, because else we wouldn't have you on our stages. So yeah, exactly. Big heart for that. Okay,
long may it continue.
Yes, long may it continue indeed. So for our younger listeners who might be listening to this and in that same space where they're thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do? Do I go and work this 9-to-5 or do I pursue my dream? What do you wish you'd known going into the music industry when you started?
My advice of anyone young and up and coming would be to go with your gut, because it's generally right. And, if you've got that passion, then don't let what other people sort of say to you. Although I actually think I've had quite a supportive, parents in some ways and siblings. I wasn't pushed like some people are, which I think can in turn sometimes really help if you are really pushed and sent to the right schools in London and stuff like that. But go with your gut. It's a bit like a football match, because, if you think about a Premier League football, you've got a player and they're making these decisions with their feet and brain and trying to get a goal in. But everybody in those stadium seats are going to be thinking what he's doing and having a judgment on it. So that's the kind of position you're putting yourself in. So be prepared for that, but also just remember that actually you're one person, there's 20,000 of them out there. So, it's equally important for you to have that opinion, but just to kind of go with your gut, because they're watching you. It's not the other way around. This is your gift to them, basically. So enjoy it.
I think it's a really crucial piece of advice to say to people, you know what that is? That's your gift to the world. You don't know who you're touching in this world until you've given that. So be brave enough to do it.
It's really easy to forget it, I think, as well.
Oh, massively.
And to get, just to get carried away with the whole, I'm going to be performing on a stage. Like you say, people are there to watch you give them something. It's not all about you, and actually it wasn't really my notion. I've been told it's your gift. So I can't take credit for that. But, it's been a great thing to remember in those times. If you're anything like me as a person, I'm hugely emotional, and I just, like I said, get stuck in my head and my heart and don't do. So doing is really good for me, because it's it won't be perfect necessarily, but it's like that bit between knowing you've got to do it and doing it, which just is the most important part. You just got to push yourself forward and not be so scared, because it is quite a raw and open thing to be a songwriter or a poet, or if you're sort of putting your heart on your sleeve and putting stuff out there, it's opening up to a lot of judgments. So just make mistakes and keep going. It's about the journey, not the destination.
I utterly agree. And being quite I call myself a pantser, as in I fly by the seat of my pants and I'll leave everything until the last minute and then start to worry about things. And if I only did more every single day, even if it's just a little bit, then it would definitely be a better system, I think, for me.
It makes you feel better, like you say, just small, little bit towards it, and then you can be like, oh, I didn't do that yesterday, so that's better. And then maybe the next day you'll do twice as much. Twice as many, Del.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of this interview. I'm so sad, because it's been lovely to speak to you.
I know, thank you.
I'm imagining your face as we're speaking, just, in my mind. Because it's, I miss it.
Me.
I miss that face and I miss that voice. So if you could meet your 10-year-old self right now, what do you think she would say about your life? And what advice would you give her about growing up?
She'd probably say, see, you're still going for that dream. Well done. I'm looking forward to seeing how far you go now. You are so loved. Just be as you are and embrace it.
So final question. If you could say anything to the music community right now, what would you say?
As Ella Fitzgerald's sort of motto was, keep on keeping on, for very different reasons, obviously. But we must keep on keeping on with music. It's so important. even if people aren't really giving it the credit that it deserves at the moment. I don't want to go off on one here, but I saw the news yesterday and I was a bit annoyed because the presenter was like rolling their eyes at the fact, I can't remember what group it was now, sorry, but they've done this socially distanced gig in bubbles, and I think that's absolutely amazing. But we all need to remember it, because it's a bit like the fishing trade or anything like that. It's all going to die out if we don't like carry it on. And I think we've been really faced with loads of challenges with this COVID. It's certainly put my plans back majorly for so many reasons. And I'm going to have to really keep going if I'm going to be like the cream that rises to the crop almost. You know, you're going to have to, if you want to make a difference, you're going to have to keep going. But also we really all need to pull together and keep it going and keep sharing if it's online or not, because then people will know it's still there. And I just don't want it to die out. Obviously music won't, but I think it's going down the way that unless you're a massive artist, you know, you're not going to get heard. But it's okay to be, you know, one of my big dreams is to like, at the moment, is to like sell out a 300 capacity theatre. And that's a great goal for me personally. It doesn't have to be Adele selling out Wembley. There's lots of different tiers of success. So just keep going at it and find your place, that little peg, wherever that slots in, basically. But let's keep music alive, because it actually is a lot more important than I think we get credit for as an industry.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree, and especially from a mental health perspective, music can literally save lives. And for those people that may be in hospital right now, not being able to see their family, not being able to see their friends, unable to emotionally survive that, they turn to music and they turn to their favourite songs and they try and keep going on that emotional, spiritual level, which I think music, you know, like any form of art, is there to provide that soul connection that is profound and kind of not of this earth in a lot of respects. So thank you for that piece of advice, and I hope that people follow it. Talking of following, what are your social handles and where can people find you on Tinternet?
I thought you say Tinder then. So I've never been on it in my life. Okay, so you can go to, simple way to remember it is my name, Joanna Cooke. But joannacooke.co.uk, you can find my website, you can subscribe. I think the most helpful thing that anyone could do right now is follow me on Spotify if you're on it, or subscribe on YouTube, and it will just help me when I release music for you guys to be notified, and then we can all enjoy it together. So thanks so much for having me.
Joanna is a go-getter. She seeks opportunity where others don't see it, be it taking an old keyboard from a skip and teaching herself how to play it, learning how to combat her nerves instead of quitting, or even writing her lyrics on scraps of paper if necessary. Where there's a will, there is a way, and Joanna has that in leaps and bounds. Joanna's inquisitive and curious mind has meant that she is open to new style and genre when creating her sound. Instead of boxing herself into one thing, she is constantly looking for ways to change, improve, and free herself, much like her idol David Bowie did in his lifetime. She said she wishes to champion her mindset to find originality and that ability to stand out as opposed to stay inside the proverbial box that society can place you in. It is so easy, especially in the music industry, to believe that producing rock music is cooler than producing pop, etc., etc. For those that think one is better in some way than the other, they pose the risk of hiding behind the music that they believe says something about their personality, instead of feeling their way through multiple forms of expression, and therefore opening their eyes to the full potential of the journey. Try everything once and twice if you like it, as my friend Sinead often tells me. Joanna confides in us that she wears her heart on her sleeve, and thank goodness that she does. As a consequence, her authenticity of how she feels really connects with an audience. She invites people into her world and would prefer an audience to cry with her than present something that meant less to her personally. For all the young writers out there, the old adage, write what you know, rings true for a reason, especially in songwriting that withstands the test of time. There is and always will be a reason why we return to the songs we can fall into emotionally, and why we learn their lyrics to sing again and again and again. Joanna doesn't take any performance for granted, believing that every gig is worthy of her most extreme attention and effort, as if she is playing Wembley Stadium every time. Sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, you may feel disheartened by the few people sat in the local pub on their phones whilst you're meant to perform. But you never know who may be sat there, and you never know how what you do affects maybe just one of those people, who will then tell another, and so on and so forth, until a few months later the pub is packed and you're being booked for bigger events because they know that no matter what, you bring your A game every time. When talking about her nerves, Joanna describes something that, in my line of work, we like to call the anchor effect, which you can apply to anything that you may feel nervous, anxious, or scared about. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and release it slowly. Start to relax your muscles from the tip of your head all the way down your body, all the way down to your knees and down to your feet. Bring your attention to that space just behind your eyes. Imagine that space opening up, and right out in front of you, you see yourself standing calmly with a smile on your face. Notice how you're holding your body in this vision of yourself. Pull back your shoulders, hold your head high, stand with confidence. If you don't know what that feels like, imagine one of your idols standing in front of you, and then with your strong and vivid imagination, impose yourself onto that image. Now imagine a time when you felt relaxed and perfectly at ease. This could be on a family holiday, or even having a nice cup of tea with the sun streaming through the window. It could be a time when you aced the exam or played your best performance. It could be snuggled up on the sofa with your dog, or being out with your friends. Now you have that image in your mind. Fill in more detail. What's in the room or landscape with you? What are you wearing? Are there objects in the space that you recognise? Are you holding anything? How does it smell? What can you hear? Really let go with your imagination until you can see, feel, or even say out loud what that space looks like in your mind's eye. Now, play through that memory or thought. Remember how you felt when you achieved that goal, or how you felt when you made that cup of tea with the sunlight streaming through the window. Allow that feeling to enter your whole body and physically smile as you recall how you felt in that space. Hold that moment and pinch your thumb and index finger together on one hand. And as you do, imagine that scenario bigger, brighter, and bolder than before. Let it shine in your mind as you feel that energy flowing into your body, relaxing your muscles, focusing your thoughts, calming your heart, and filling you with so much happiness. Whilst you're pinching those fingers, say in your mind, I get to choose how I feel today, and I choose to feel. Now enter the words of your choice. Gently whisper it on your lips. I get to choose how I feel today, and I choose. Finally, bring your full attention to that sentence and say it with intention. Let it hang in the air for a moment. Take another deep breath, holding that thumb and index finger together. When you're ready to bring that energy to the next moment of your waking reality, gently open your eyes and release your fingers. Know that any time you want to feel this way, you can simply pinch your thumb and finger together, and this image will come to your mind. And the more you practice it physically, the stronger that neuro pathway will become, until eventually it will be as second nature as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. Fear of failure or not living up to other people's opinions of you will always hold you back if you let it. That guilt that you're not capable or your passions getting in the way of the rest of your life helps no one, least of all you. So give yourself a break and forgive yourself for being human for a minute. Remember that this time we have is so precious, and who knows how much of it we are given at the end of the day. So do the things that help you overcome the emotions that inhibit your gift or your personal progression and goals. Nothing, believe me, is worth waiting for. You've just got to go for it whilst you have the will and air to breathe. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that nothing is permanent, good or bad. And right now is all we really have. So I ask you the question posed by the poet Mary Oliver. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You may want to take her instruction. Pay attention, be astonished, and then tell everyone about it. Next week on the show, we meet international wildlife artist Richard Simmons, who will take us through the plains of Africa right up to the steps of the royal family's home, as he tells us about his journey with his fine art. But for now, sit back, relax, and prepare to shed a tear or two as we listen to the song that Joanna mentioned in this interview. It's called Do It Slow.
If you leave me, if you leave me, if you leave me, do it slow, be gentle as you go.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the show. If you have a spare moment now, please like, subscribe, and tell me your thoughts in a review on Apple Podcasts, which will really help other people like yourself to find the show. Of course, you can also share the show with your friends by following us at the Brave Moment Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or on Twitter at Moment Brave, or just follow the Linktree on all of our social media platforms. It's been so wonderful to have you all here with me again. Please get in touch with your own stories, and remember, your brave moment starts now.